Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lana. I used to not have these many book hauls, but you know what I think happened? The price of books has really gone up recently, and I like to hang out on the apps and websites where people sell their own books secondhand, because buying books from bookstores is now a luxury. Every time I see a book that I really want that someone is selling secondhand for like a very low price, I feel like I have to get it because I don't know if I'll be able to get it later. So I actually end up buying more books than I used to before, which is not good and I need to stop. But I'm very excited about all these books and I can't wait to tell you about them. Let's start with the first one, which is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I have been looking for an edition of Rebecca that I did not hate. The one that I kept seeing everywhere is like the little red one. I did not like that one. I didn't want it. It just looks like an 80s book. It doesn't give me the vibes that I want from Rebecca, which is so stupid. But I saw someone selling this book for like nothing. It was ridiculously cheap. And actually when I met the woman to get the book from her, I mentioned how, oh, I'm so glad I found this edition. She looked very surprised, and I think she might have had the thought of, oh, maybe I should have asked for more money for this book. But I'm very glad to have it. It is a tiny bit damaged, but I don't care and I'm glad to have it. And Rebecca is a modern classic that talks about a young woman who marries an older widowed man and moves into his estate in England. And when they finally arrive at this estate, she learns about Rebecca, her husband's first wife, who mysteriously died or something, and it's like the staff and the house are still loyal to Rebecca. She left some pretty big shoes for our main heroine to fill, and this is pretty much all I know. I know that it's atmospheric and suspenseful, and actually no, I lied. I got spoiled for this book a little bit in a video that talked about all the books referenced in Taylor Swift's latest album, so and I'm a little mad about that. I'm gonna feign ignorance and say that that's all I know. I know nothing else. Next is another book that I got for very little money, and it's Strange the Dreamer. As you can see, there is no dust jacket. It was sold without one. The lady said that she lost it. Here it is, Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, and this is one of those books. It's been on my TBR for so long that it's very familiar, but at the same time I have no idea what it actually is about anymore. The author herself said it's about a young librarian, a lost mythical city, and the half-human children of murdered gods. And if you look at the Goodreads page of this book, the praise for it is overwhelming, and I'm very glad to have found it. Next is a favorite of mine that I read many years ago, and I think it's time to revisit it. It's The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I love this book. I remember that it was so creepy and spooky and weird, and I loved the ending, and as much as I love the musical, this book is on a different level. It's much darker than the musical and way more gothic. And this book is set in 19th century at the Paris Opera House. It begins with an investigation into the strange stories, strange things that have been happening at the Opera House. There are rumors of this ghost who's terrifying performers in their dressing rooms and in the corridors. But it isn't until the triumphant performance of beautiful soprano Christine Daae that the Phantom begins his attacks, striking terror in the hearts of everyone in the theater. It's very suspenseful and dark and atmospheric, and it feels like you are navigating the like dark and empty corridors of an opera house. I don't know why theaters are not used more in like horror and gothic stories, because theaters are scary. I think. Next is another book that I've previously read and really enjoyed, and that is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is probably one of my favorite books by Jane Austen. I remember really liking the heroine. I remember really enjoying the plot and the way it was built. Maybe also because I could relate to the main character, because I read this when I was pretty young and the main character here is 17 years old. It tells the story of naive, charming Catherine Morland, who is obsessed with reading Gothic romance and horror. When Catherine is invited to stay at her new friend's grand house, Northanger Abbey, with its mysterious suite of sealed-off rooms, her melodramatic imagination threatens to run away with her. As comic misunderstandings ensue, she comes to understand the gap between fantasy and reality, false friends and true feeling. I just remember reading about this girl who's read so many Gothic thrillers that when she's invited to this estate, this abbey, looks like a castle. Of course, she would project everything that she read and encountered in those stories onto her real life and the people around there. And actually, just talking about it, I'm remembering so many things. I definitely should revisit this one soon. Oh, and this one was also bought secondhand along with the next book. They came together and I'm obsessed. And this is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I've mentioned these editions before that I really enjoy them. I really like the quality. I like that they're floppy. I like that the classics within them, because of this format, don't intimidate me, which means that I'm that more likely to actually get to them. And this is a book I've never read. I've never read Jane Eyre, and I need to do something about it, and this is me doing something about it. I bought my own edition and I will get to it sometime soon. And this is about Jane, who is hired by the brooding Edward Rochester to take care of his ward. And I'm pretty sure I've been spoiled about like the big mystery of this book, but the thing I'm excited about the most is not so much the plot twists, but the writing, the things I've heard about this book, how many people love it and how they all say that it's ridiculously readable, it's easy to get through, and it's relatable. And like, for a classic to be this loved, I'm very curious how I will feel. I'm sure I'll feel the same way, but I just wonder why. The next one is the most recent addition to my physical TBR. The fact that I even have it is a little bizarre to me, because this is All Our Hidden Gifts by Caroline O'Donoghue, and this book came out in 2021, just last year, and I have no idea how I've already found someone in Moscow selling it secondhand for very little, the paperback version of a book that just came out. Like, how did that happen? I don't know, but I saw that book and I was like, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Plus, I saw this post and review by Kimberly Reed, which definitely sold me on this book. This is a YA witchy book set in Ireland. We follow Maeve, who is known to give very astute tarot card readings. And one day she finds an old tarot card deck at school. She gives a reading to her classmate, who draws a card that she's never seen before. They fight, and then come Monday, she learns that that friend disappeared. So this has mystery and magic and a very diverse cast of characters, and I am so into this. And the last book I have here is the only one I actually paid full price for, and that is Pandora by Susan Stocks Chapman. This is the Russian edition that I bought during the International Book Fair here in Moscow. And this is a historical fiction that is inspired by the Pandora myth. This is set in Georgian London, where we follow Dora, short for Pandora, who lives with her uncle atop her late parents' shop of antiquities. The plot is set in motion with the discovery of an ancient Greek vase, and Dora turns to a young, ambitious antiquarian scholar, Edward, to unlock the mysteries of the vase. And the things that they discover make her question everything she knew about her life, her parents, and the world. And actually Jean from Jean Bookish Thoughts, who is an ancient historian, recently did a vlog where she read several books that are myth retellings, and she read this book even though this is not a retelling. It's inspired by the myth. She really enjoyed it, and she had very interesting insights into the parallels between the characters and the plot and the original myth, and I highly recommend that vlog. It's so interesting.
This just feels like a good, atmospheric, detailed, well-built historical fiction novel. There was lots of inspiration clearly drawn from the original myths, if a whole new story was being created nonetheless.
So these are all the new books on my physical TBR. It's growing very fast. I'm trying not to freak out about that. Let me know in the comments which one of these you're most excited for me to read, or just leave me a purple heart emoji to let me know that you were here. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.